Welcome to episode 261 of Fresher at 5, called The Fullness and Back to Podcasting. Well, it's been really full lately. As I'll talk about in the beginning of this episode, I spent some time doing a lot of Pro D things and some fishing and getting sick. And well, I'm healthy again, so I'm thankful for that. So let's take a listen. And thanks for being here. I appreciate it. And here we go with episode 261.
I'm Chris Nessie, host of Behind the Mic, Voices of the EPN, a part of the Education Podcast Network. Just like the show you're listening to now, shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to Fresher at 5, the podcast. I'm your host, Brian Carpenter, coming to you every week from Abbotsford, which is about 45 minutes east of Vancouver, British Columbia, on the west coast of Canada. Fresher at 5 is my regular attempt to get some fresh air by walking about my neighborhood, which is located on the traditional and unceded territory of the Stolo people, the Simath First Nation and Mathwee First Nation. I consume podcast content while I walk, then reflect on this content in an unedited video, which I post on my X, formerly known as Twitter, channel every day. This podcast is the collection of the audio taken from those daily selfie videos over the course of a week, Monday to Friday. So let's jump into my listening and learning this past week. Hey PLN, it's May 19, 2026, a Tuesday after the Victoria Day long weekend here in British Columbia. And you're like, Carpenter, where have you been? It has been like a week between episodes, and we haven't heard from you. And well, I'm here to say that it's been a full and rich month with conference business going on, my PETA stuff happening, and traveling. And April was very busy for me for traveling. Yearbook finished at school, got that off to the printers. I got the salmon tank wrapped up a couple weeks ago on May 6th. And, it's been a lot of pressure and a lot of stress. Not in a bad way, but just a fullness of all the things. And then as soon as I relaxed one weekend, this was 2 Saturdays ago, I was away in Kelowna. I started getting a tickle in my throat, and that turned into the cold flu, knocked me down for better part of a week. And, I'm recovered now, but that week was the week off that I did not walk or listen to podcasts and record, and it was just a rest week for me. So I'm back. I'm thankful that I'm healthy and well again. And I went fishing this past weekend up towards Kamloops. Had a fantastic time with my friend Ryan, and we managed to catch quite a few fish at a lake and even bring a few home for eating. So I'm here now and thankful that it's mid-May. We're getting close to the end of the school year, and things are starting to wrap up at school. All right, this morning I listened to episode 371 of the Easy EdTech podcast with Monica Burns, and she brings us using AI tools to help make infographics. It's not the exact title, but she talks about strategies and ideas about how we can use large language models to serve us to make graphics. Well, one of the things AI has not had, has been good at is making graphic things, and the hallucinations and text in graphics is not been there. It's been lacking. But she talks about ChatGPT, Gemini, Nano Banana, Canva, and other tools that, even with some good prompting, can generate some reasonable results. Now, these aren't professional quality infographics that you would put in a book and say, I made that. But they could be for your classroom, for a quick and simple infographic to represent something, talking about strategies and things like that. Take a listen for yourself. This could be helpful and useful to just change your mind a little bit about AI. All right, happy day. Talk to you soon. Bye. The last thing for May 19, 2026. Not sure if I've mentioned this podcast before on my podcast here, Fresh Air at 5, but I have going to bring a new to me podcast. It's not really new to me, but I've listened to it, but I don't know if I've reported it. It is The Revisionist History by Malcolm Gladwell. And he is a Canadian-British journalist that did his undergrad work and his learning, got his Bachelor's of Arts in, I think, journalism from the University of Toronto. And then he was a reporter for The New Yorker since 1996. And his podcast, The Revisionist History, is a fascinating podcast. He's written 8 books. You've probably heard of some of his books. One of them is The Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. And I haven't read it, but I've heard of it. And I understand a bit of the concepts in there, that it is not the regular bell curve that we look at, but the outliers that affect change in our community and our society. So anyhow, my friend Ryan, he's gotten me onto this. And as we come back from our fishing trips, he has, in the past, has said, hey, check this out, listen to this. And so we've listened to some episodes. And this past fishing trip, as we're returning, he talked about podcasts, an episode, 2 episodes actually, from season 15, episode 2 and 3, called Zootopia Exposed. And you should listen. It is an interesting, curious thing about intellectual property. And screenwriter Gary Coldman claims that Disney stole his idea for the movie Zootopia and turned it into a franchise that we have seen on the screens in 2015 and then again in 2025. So take a listen for yourself. You should check this out, because this is an interesting thing about intellectual property and how do we protect our ideas? How do we share our ideas? And what should the big business do with understanding and taking care of people that are working hard to share their ideas and not rip them off? All right, there you go. There's a hook for you. Take a listen for yourself, and I encourage you to let me know what you think, because I've got some thoughts now that I've listened to Malcolm Gladwell talk about this fun franchise called Zootopia. Okay, bye. Hey, PLN, it's May 2026, and it's in the evening now, and it's a beautiful evening. It's about 20 degrees Celsius, sunny, and blue skies with light clouds up above. Yes, I'm out for a walk this evening. This morning I was in the dental chair at 7, so I wasn't feeling up for exercising before I went, so I was resting, and I went to the dentist. And while I was at the dentist this morning, though, I did listen to episode 154 of Evolving with Gratitude with Lainey Rowell. She interviewed and shared an interview with us, part 1 of a 2-part interview with Jim Collins, who wrote a book called What to Make of a Life, or what makes a life. And so they were talking about the occurrences in our lives that will change the direction of our course, and whether or not we have a plan and going in a direction, and then that plan changes and it changes direction on us, is what the topic was. Where are the cliffs? How are these cliffs that we run into in our lives, significant moments that change for us, make the direction of our lives change? You know, like a professional athlete will stop being a professional athlete at some point, and what do you do after that? And how do you move forward after that? You know, and they talk a lot about that, and it was very interesting. And, you know, reflecting on myself and how there have been cliffs in my life that have been anticipated or not anticipated. One of them was when the pharmaceutical company closed, and we ended up, you know, I got laid off from work, which was an unexpected, but that was one of those times. And now, without that happening, I probably wouldn't be the teacher that I am today. And I wouldn't be a teacher because I would have carried on probably doing research because the transition might have been too slow. So that's one of those examples of a cliff that happens in our lives. He talked about the encoding of ourselves and the different encoding things that we have a propensity to or a desire to do. We might have something that we really want to do, but maybe that we're not actually set out to be good at. We can learn skills like mathematics and science, but maybe we are more prone and built and wired to fly airplanes or be public speakers or things like that. So that was inspiring and to hear. And this is the end of part 1 that I listened to today. And part 2 is probably coming out next week or 2 weeks from now on Evolving with Gratitude. So make sure you stay tuned for that. I'm going to stay tuned and listen to that when that comes out. Thanks, Lainey. Thank you, Jim. Talk to you. Bye. One more thing for May 2020-26. Good evening, Tim. Hope you're doing well. This is me reporting on Teachers on Fire that I just listened to podcast as Tim talks with Connie Hamilton about better questions, deeper learning. And as you guys talk about asking better questions, it's about how do we ask questions of our class and getting engagement of all of our learners in class as opposed to those that just put up their hands. I'm guilty of doing the, hey, call out and get some answers, and hopefully the class is learning. But you know what? There's always those kids in the back corner that are not engaged. Maybe we need to move the back corner around the room so that they are not sitting in the back corner. But that is one way to engage students, possibly. But another way is to have them do talking turns, to do whiteboard work. So they write it on their whiteboard and then everybody shows their whiteboards possibly, or we walk around and look at whiteboards so everybody's responding to the question that is posed. They talk about, Connie and Tim talk about productive struggle and how that struggle in learning is so essential, but how often do I'm guilty of rescuing students too soon. Leaving them for just a bit longer, maybe could be helpful, that they think about it, they work through their problem themselves, as opposed to, I don't know what to do. And that I don't know, that was a great part of this conversation as well. How do we deal with the I don't knows and approach students when they say, I don't know, and dig into metacognitive questions about, well, what have you tried already? What's going right for you? Which part don't you know? Is it possibly maybe that you didn't hear the question clearly and that we don't have to go back and relearn the whole lesson? So that was fantastic. There's a lot in here. Take a listen for yourself and give me your thoughts. I'd like to hear those. Tim would like to hear those as well. And thanks, Tim. Thank you, Connie, for your work as you were sharing about asking better questions and deeper learning that comes out of those. All right, that's all I've got for right now. I got a lot more podcasts to listen to, and I'm looking here at Mount Baker as I'm walking right up in there. Look at that. Can you see it? No, it's right there. So that's Mount Baker, and it's a beautiful evening here in Abbotsford. Okay, bye. The last thing for May 2020-26, I just finished listening to Teach Happier with Suzanne Daly, Season 6, Episode 30, as she brings us the last episode for Season 6. And it's entitled, What's Saving Your Life Right Now? And in this episode, she talks about joyful anyways. She talks about having joy in the midst of the struggle and remembering and choosing joy. It doesn't mean that it is going to make all the problems go away. It doesn't mean that it's going to make life maybe a whole lot easier, but it will change our perspective to look for the good that is going on in our life. And the question in the title of this episode is, what is saving your life right now? And, thinking about what is it that you do through your day that is saving you, that is allowing you to be joyful and to have gratitude in your day. This is so important that we think about this. We pull back a little bit and we're reflecting. So this is a reflective practice to think about what is going right now. What are the things that bring us joy in our day? What are the things that are our life preservers and life rings that are helping us during the times of drowning? What's those routines? And it's important that we practice those routines so that when it gets hard, that we have a place to go. We have reasons to think about what is going right. and those kinds of things. So for yourself, I would encourage you to think about what is making life great right now. One of those things for me is the fact that I'm out walking right now. And I live in a beautiful place, and I am thankful that I get to walk in my neighborhood. I often walk in the morning when it's a lot darker, but, getting out and seeing the people in the neighborhood and walking around, that is so important. All right, that's all I've got for now. Have a fabulous day, and we'll talk to you later. Okay, bye-bye. Hey, PLN, it is Sunday, May 24, 2026. Good morning to you. Hope this finds you well. Yesterday, I went out and got some fresh air up in the interior when I went fishing. I took my boat and went up to a lake and was able to catch some fish, and it was fantastic. While I was driving up that way early in the morning, around 5 o'clock in the morning, I listened to episode 215 of the EdTech Throwdown podcast with Nick and Eric, as they bring us streamlining the classroom, top content creation and search tools for educators. This is an episode where they bring us 10 tools that talk about different various things that you can do with online tools that they've found over the time. Not the regular ones like Canva or other Google searches and things like that, but some niche tools that can help you. There's some free video AI creation tools that you could use, and there's some that are paid. There's some search tools that give you a side-by-side of Google and the AI, Google search and the AI results at the same time in one window, so you can do a side-by-side comparison. The names of some of these escape me, but there is a content creation one called Napkin, where you can use it to make presentations and graphics. There's another one about creating graphic, like charts and things from data and from information. So check these things out. There's a lot in here, and I will have to go check out some of them. There's no way we can use all of these, but the guys have a good list building that they've been building up over the past year. They want to share with us. So in the next little while on the EdTech Throwdown, we're going to hear some of these types of episodes. Excited about it. Thank you, gentlemen. Hope it's all going well, and I caught a nice fish yesterday. All right, okay, bye. The last thing for Sunday, September 24, 2026. Continuing on my thoughts from yesterday's drive, as I went for a drive yesterday up to the interior to go fishing, I listened to SEL and Education episode 96 with Dr. Krista Lea. She talks with Natalie Oudman-Poe about humanizing mathematics, the soft life, and talking about how whole teacher care and engagement in what we do as a craft is so essential to our learners, and it makes such a big difference in their lives. Natalie talks about her experience in the classroom and about her work with students and caring for families and reaching out, and how and why we need to put in 115% into our everyday so that we work hard, so that we can go home and we can play hard and spend time in our family life doing exactly the same kind of thing. We're not supposed to work all the time. We're not supposed to do that. Definitely not. But we are supposed to make connections with students. How do we make those connections, and why are those connections so very important? Great conversation. Goes in a lot of different directions. It's not just about mathematics. Mathematics is the academic subject area that Natalie works in with her students, but it's about connecting all of this and making it relevant to our everyday life for students, not my life as a teacher, but students' lives in the context that they know. All right, taking curriculum and personalizing it to your classroom. Yes, curriculum is great and it can be fantastic, but using it straight out of the can as is, that chicken noodle soup from Campbell's is good, but you could make it greater by adding some vegetables and things to it. All right, that's my analogy. All right, have a fabulous day. We'll talk to you later, and that's it for this episode of Fresh Air at 5. Okay, bye. I appreciate you giving me a listen as I've created this podcast experience for you. It's like a unique Blinkist or Coles Notes version of the content I take in, like a highlight reel, so that you can hopefully find some other interesting podcasts you may not have considered before. I've recorded the specific episode podcast titles and episode numbers in the show notes, which are only a click or swipe away for your learning convenience. I've also started to put together a Spotify playlist of each of the episodes so that you can also take a listen to those specifically, and the link to that playlist is in the show notes. Please subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming episodes. And if you enjoy this podcast and its format, share it with someone else. You can also follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Brian Carr, BRYONCAR, or at Fresh Air at 5. Tweet about your experience or give it a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. Fresh Air at 5 can be found on the Educational Podcast Network. Podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. I hope you have a fantastic day. Get some fresh air before the day is out and take care of yourself because you are worth it.